Ko matiti te maunga ko waiweka te awa ko Ngāti Ira te hapu ko opiki te marae ko te whakatōhea te iwi ko Nadine Gray tōpuinga ingoa tēnā tātou katoa. I ngā rangatira mā tina te mihi ki a koutou ko te tūmanako ka whai hui tēnei huihuinga o tātou nō reira tēnā koutou katoa. So yeah, I'm here to present to you my research, which was based at Te Whare Wānanga or Awanuiārangi down in Whakatane, with the Bachelor of Health Sciences Māori nursing program down there. Oh, can you not see it? Hang on. Oh, hang on. Sorry. Share. Oh, why is it not working? The blue button isn't showing. No. Hang on a minute, I'll start again. Share screen. I've pushed these. Do you want me to just push the presentation now? Oh. Why is it not working? Sorry, guys. Pardon? Yeah, but the blue, where you push share, it's not highlighted. Oh, sorry, aroha mai. Can you see that now, everyone? Can you see that? Hang on a minute. Oh, I have to go back. You. Oh, sorry. Yep. Okay. We got there in the end. Sorry, everyone. So yes, as I was saying, so I'm going to talk about the program down in Whakatane, and the research looked at the privileging of mātauranga Māori in the program down there, and yeah, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the research itself. But I guess following. Oh, is it not working? Can you see that? Yeah, I did push that. Yeah. Now? Oh. Inside my PowerPoint. Oh, but if I push from beginning, you can't see it, like if I do that? Yeah, no, well, mine goes into just the PowerPoint, my own screen. Oh. How do I get out of there? I don't know why you can't see it. I know, which is a real pain. because I can see it on that screen there, and then when I push, so you can see my mouse up here to from beginning, and I click it, and then it doesn't come up with you guys, to you guys. Should I unclick presenter view? Is that it? No, I don't know why that's doing that. Primary. No? No, it worked this morning, didn't it? Oh, well, can anyone bear with seeing looking at it like that? Sorry about that, everyone. Yeah, that's a real pain. So I'll have to click each one individually, right? Okay, all right. So this is all right, so let's get going, because it's okay. So I guess following on from Whaia Denise and the whakatauki that she shared about understanding the beginning to look to the future, I just wanted to share my own reflection about my nursing experiencing, I guess, getting into nursing from my beginning that sort of informed my future. And perhaps I think, we all do it, well, we all, reflect on our own pathway of where we've ended up in our nursing careers. So it's kind of was a good thing to do when I related to the students that I spoke to at Awanuiārangi. In secondary school, I purposely took sciences, maths and English subjects because I wanted to study medicine, but unfortunately my grades were not high enough to gain direct entry. So unfazed by doing an extra year of study, in 1997, I began the competitive health sciences program at Waikato University to try my luck at getting a coveted place in med school. However, university was completely different to school. Within 6 months, the siloed pressure of competing was too much and I gave up. I was unaware of any Māori-specific support services at university or any Māori special admission criteria for professional health sciences programs at the time. So I took 6 months off study and I worked full-time as a caregiver in a rest home with no prior experience. And it was here that my desire to pursue a career in health was confirmed. I wanted to help and care for people. My mother's influence was also key to this decision. She was the first Māori nurse practitioner in Aotearoa, New Zealand, with a professional drive towards improving Māori health, and I admired her hard work ethic. And through her example, I enrolled in the Bachelor of Nursing at Waikato Institute of Technology, completing the degree in 2000, with very few other Māori nurses. I began my nursing career in Whakatane Hospital in the Bay of Plenty, and as a new graduate before I moved to Auckland City to pursue other aspirations in acute adult services. Having both Māori and Pākehā whakapapa has allowed me to walk in both worlds. As a fair-skinned Māori, I proudly identify as a Māori nurse, despite situations where I've been asked how much Māori blood I have, as though Māori identity can be understood or concentrated in some more than others. These exchanges throughout my life have taught me that physical characteristics do not determine my identity, but rather to stand strong in my ethnic duality. Belonging is about my connection to my whakapapa, people, a shared understanding of the world. Notwithstanding, as a Māori nurse, I observe how colour, as a visible characteristic, impacts the healthcare experiences of Māori and other ethnic minority peoples. As a senior expert nurse, I'm often asked for cultural advice by colleagues related to caring for Māori clients and whānau. And additionally, I've encountered institutional racism during handover of care where colleagues displayed negative attitudes or stereotyped descriptions of Māori or ethnic minority groups or clients. These experiences have been confronting to challenge at an organisational level. But through study and I guess gaining knowledge in Māori health and working within it, it's strengthened my nursing practice and the need for change. So I wanted to share with you, first of all, a little bit for those that aren't really sure about what a wānanga is. So Te Whare Wānanga or Awanuiārangi, which is located in Whakatane and the Bay of Plenty, is, I guess, opened in 1992, but it's a house of higher learning. The moemoeā or vision of Awanuiārangi is for Māori to claim and develop their cultural heritage and broaden their knowledge base to face the future with, I guess, confidence, and to be able to challenge the challenges of the future. Awanuiārangi is part of the wider regional Bay of Plenty community, and it has a responsibility to positively and proactively contribute to the local community and its interests. The Wānanga as an educational institution is characterised by teaching and research that maintains, advances, it disseminates and assists the application of knowledge regarding ahua Māori. It enables tauira students to take a journey of discovery, of reclamation of their sovereignty, and it actually also establishes a quality of Māori intellectual tradition alongside the knowledge bases of other educational institutions. The student body of Awanuiārangi is 95% Māori, with achievement rates that exceed the national Māori achievement levels at other institutions. So given that profile, Māori have, a real opportunity and a desire to learn, with being Māori actually supports their success. So the development of Te Ohanga Mataora, which is the Māori Bachelor of Nursing program down there, was initiated by the Kaunihira or Nihi Māori, the National Council of Māori Nurses, and in collaboration with Awanuiārangi. It really was in response to needing to grow the Māori nursing workforce and to address recruitment and retention issues within health sciences programs. Currently at Awanuiārangi, Māori students make up 75% of all enrolments in the program. 80% of those are aged 25 years and over, and 95% are female students. And since the program, I guess, was re-established at Awanuiārangi in 2015, 79% of the graduates are Māori. So what informed the research on looking at this program based in a wānanga setting was again to do with workforce shortages of Māori RNs, getting an insight into the factors that support Māori student engagement and retention in nursing education, and actually also the challenges that threaten the success of Māori, with really looking at Awanuiārangi as a different place to learn compared to other environments, and to hear the voices of the students themselves. The aim of the project was to explore how the interweaving of mātauranga Māori throughout the degree program influenced the engagement, retention, and the completion outcomes of these students. To explore the factors that students in this program felt assisted them to succeed, and what gives them confidence and competence to make a difference in Māori health. And so that was the research question there. How does interweaving mātauranga Māori in the program influence the experiences and the outcome? So first of all, was looking at the literature, and although there's been a lot of, there's quite a bit of research, particularly out of Auckland University, in looking at Indigenous peoples from around the world in health sciences program. The research question in doing this project was there was a clear need to carry it out, given that there'd been no literature. I couldn't find any literature that was about undergraduate programs in a whare Wānanga environment, because it is the only place that offers a health science degree in Aotearoa. So guided by Kaupapa Māori methodology, it allowed this project to, I guess, being in a wānanga environment, which is underpinned by mātauranga Māori, it was the right methodology to take, where Māori are at the centre of the research, affirming Māori ways and worldviews and knowledge, and contributing to Indigenous knowledge. I guess the thing about Kaupapa Māori research is that it's organic, meaning that it, there's no set recipe. Rather, it's influenced by the people that are part of the whole project. So the participants in the study, through proposed sampling, was just around who of the students across the degree program wanted to participate in having a semi-structured interview about their experiences in the program. and what brought them into it and their background. And basically it was really around gathering their life story. So initially they were asked about their demographic data, their age, and if they had any children, what were their highest qualifications before coming into the program, and if they were currently employed or had been employed. So overall, the participants were all Māori women. Unfortunately, none of the Māori men in the program wanted to participate, and their ages range between 20 and 43. There were participants across the 3-year groups, so year 1, year 2, and 3. And actually, I also ended up having one graduate who literally just completed the degree program and registered in 2008. 6 of the participants had completed post-secondary education course, level 3s and 4 courses, such as one of them, I think it was like a chef or just level 3 and 4, Te Reo Māori. And one of the participants had a level 7 bachelor's degree. And half of these participants that were in this research had done the Bridging Foundation program to gain entry into the degree. 3 had part-time or casual employment, or all others were receiving some kind of financial student benefit to support them through the course. All of them were living local to Whakatane, or the surrounding rural areas. So before I talk a little bit about the findings, I just wanted to acknowledge that the limitations of this research, and what was really important to acknowledge, that by these women coming forward and sharing their stories of coming into a Bachelor of Health Science Māori nursing program, and sharing these stories with me, was that there was no assumption made on, I guess, their cultural connectedness before they entered the program, and being aware that some Māori participants may have felt, marginalised or disempowered if they didn't speak Te Reo Māori before coming into the Wānanga program, or not feeling confident in cultural traditions or practices. Also, it was about acknowledging that a limitation of the project was that not all Māori aren't homogenous or a standardised group of people. Rather, like many other ethnic minority groups, there's just a range of students that participated that had a strong sense of their cultural identity, and those that were less confident in knowing who they are. So the findings. So after doing thematic analysis around their life stories and looking at what strengthened what brought them into the program, what helped them succeed, and what was challenging, there were 5 themes that came from all the interviews, and theme 1 being succeeding for whānau. So I've just added in there some quotes from some of the students themselves related to the themes that were strongly represented. So many of the participants, or these women, talked about not feeling like they were set up to succeed, not having direct entry or prerequisites into the program. One had university entry for direct entry, whereas half of them had left school with no qualifications at all. And so with that sort of limited formal education prior to entry, there was a real sort of lack of confidence in their own, in themselves, that they had the skills or the experience to actually succeed when they first began the program. Some of them may have had negative experiences at school, or a couple had previous failed experiences at bridging programs at other institutions. So it was a huge, sort of a big leap to get over, to come back and actually feel like they could do it. And most of them were inspired by succeeding in this, and hanging in there and carrying on was related to a collectivist value, where it wasn't just about them, that it's about their whānau, succeeding for everyone and role modelling to everyone in their whānau. And I guess over time, the growth of self-belief and having encouragement from whānau really matters. Theme 2, privileging mātauranga Māori in the learning space. And so it was really about this theme was just the strength in being in a space that really values mātauranga Māori as part of the learning. So more than the degree itself, it was about the reclaiming of their own cultural identity and a desire, again, to role model that as well as their learning doing a degree to their whānau. Whare Wānanga provides an opportunity for the tauira Māori and non-Māori that are in the program to learn and understand the unique nature of identity, language te reo Māori, and the culture of tangata whenua, and how that it's a real self-discovery. It allowed the students to get involved in the Māori world, and including the staff in the school, the faculty. The students talked about, with the embracing of Māoritanga, that non-Māori staff had a real commitment in the teaching and learning environment to mātauranga as well. There's a normalisation of te reo Māori and tikanga as everyday practices, rather than a tag on. It's part of everything that they do in the learning. So I guess as a mediating structure, the wānanga itself was viewed as a safe space for these Māori students to be their authentic selves and enable them to grow in their Māoriness. And I guess this then had a flow-on effect of distributive action to their own whānau and community, speaking Māori at home, re-engaging in their marae, or linking back to their own whakapapa. Theme 3 was dual competency and ethnic concordance. And so this theme really was around by strengthening Māori identity as throughout the 3-year undergraduate program. There was a consistent theme present across everything that they discussed, really, related to the academic outcome of that. Strengthening of identity is an academic outcome. Cultural capital that these Māori students bring with them into the educational environments is ultimately is strengthened as graduates and then into the workforce as they complete. The program itself supports the existing knowledge that the key to positioning Indigenous students towards success is to include relevant Indigenous content in the education program from a strengths-based approach. And I guess theme 3 overall from their verbatim was identified from their perceptions of themselves acquiring dual competency and providing ethnic concordance to Māori clients and whānau in their care. They could see that there was a difference once they're out in practicum. And just interestingly, in the program, the nursing students were able to they have to demonstrate competency in tikanga hauora, health, and also tōna reo. So they have Māori language, learning te reo Māori, basic te reo Māori, under the domain of cultural competency. So ethnic concordance between the health provider and patient interface is a very strong theme, and I guess it really goes on to support the Māori, for Māori by Māori in service delivery. There was a lot that spoke about when they are in practicum that it was seen as advantageous. There was a real recognition of them having culturally specialised skills in the clinical environment. Theme 4, whanaungatanga. The students that participated, talked about a common thread of, with the importance of relationships between not only the fellow students in the class, but also student kaiako or teacher, and really the availability of both formal and informal learning support, and just the accessibility of that being the ease of accessibility to kaiako lecturers to support them in their journey. The concept of whanaungatanga sort of encapsulates the real strong relationships across all cohorts of the 3-year program. So not just year 1s together, year 2s and year 3s, but actually the cross-pollination across all 3 year groups. And that there was a sense that it's more of a whānau group established from year 1 and everybody knowing each other. And that sort of gives a sense of belonging and purpose. Tuakana teina. Relationships, reciprocity of learning between both teachers and students. So I guess it's that real ako in action where the social and interactive nature of the teaching and learning methods that were used in the wānanga, like noho, marae, waiata, reo Māori classes, and the cultural exchange between the different cultures, actually, of the students themselves in the program. Interesting, there's quite a few Filipino nurses that were students in the program too. So there's that real sharing of the cultures across the board. The participants spoke about the collective academic support exceeding their expectations, including social needs. So the wānanga provides on-site accommodation for those that have difficulties or live quite rurally. They have transport options for those that live rurally to bring them to school. And new mothers being able to bring their pipi in so they don't have for their babies, so they don't have to fall behind. The participants discussed the positive approaches to learning science, such as group learning, so they don't feel whakama if they don't know something, visual hands-on activities, and the wānanga also had virtual reality headsets where they were learning practical skills by virtual reality. And the final theme that they talked about was threats to the success or the challenges faced in the program. So being in an indigenous tertiary institute doesn't mean that Awanuiārangi is just exclusively for Māori. The participants talked about the negative attitude, stigma and racism that they experience because they chose to study at a wānanga, not a mainstream institution or a technical institution or a university. They discussed experiences of having challenging conversations with friends, family, community members regarding that a wānanga is not a real school or produces real degrees or them becoming real nurses. It was perceived, some of the comments that some of the perceptions out there, I guess, that they received was that being a wānanga student meant that you got everything and that you got extra help and that you have an advantage over others or compared to other programs. So I guess in this study, it really looks at the way in which institutional racism, or what even Denise was talking about, structural racism and stereotyping is entrenched in our tertiary education system. And this was a great example of how it manifests in that with power relations through privileging a dominant group or a dominant place of learning over another. These participants definitely had been subjected to racism and an assumption that wānanga education is inferior with lower expectations. And this is a really important consideration for all undergraduate programs in Aotearoa, New Zealand, that offer, Māori and Pacific streams in undergraduate health sciences, to really create awareness and conversation around how students might be perceived, particularly when they're out in clinical practice, and whether they're, those assumptions that are out there that they are, given extra help and that it's not the same as the mainstream. And one of the other, I guess, major sort of themes that came out too was these participants talked about needing more Māori educators in the program, even at Awanuiārangi, that there just aren't enough Māori staff. So I guess there's definitely an ongoing challenge for Awanuiārangi to recruit nurse educators into the program. And actually the question around that there really is an inadequate pipeline for Māori nurses to become educators in an academic environment. Like, what is the pathway to reach there, or if that is an option or that is something that you want to pursue. So the other verbatim that you can see there is just doing everything, marrying it all together and being able to do it all. And I guess that just gives weight to, the constant balancing of whānau, finances and study, and just surviving was really related to the financial implications of getting through a degree and that being a challenge to successfully completing for these students. The wānanga came up with quite a few different ways of helping students financially by, for example, putting state fees in the total fees at the beginning of the year, so that they students wouldn't be stung with the money later on and having to find the money. by offering transport, so that kind of mitigates barriers to attendance, and just really working with the needs of each cohort to ensure that they have everything sort of, I guess every sort of different kind of support that's necessary to help these students succeed and make it to the end. And so the recommendations for, I guess that I've sort of discussed around this piece of research is that it's significant because it provides valuable insight into the experiences and perceptions of Māori nursing students learning within an Indigenous context. It's distinct to any other New Zealand tertiary program in New Zealand, and that it really gives weight to Māori graduates attaining dual nursing competency through learning knowledge and skills from both worlds, nursing knowledge and mātauranga Māori, and the importance of that for our future workforce. It provides evidence of cultural approaches to education delivered through a Kaupapa Māori lens. I guess the flip side of education, from that's fundamental to Kaupapa Māori education. And also the importance of identifying the barriers of Māori in their journey to completion. It really identifies the need for tertiary providers to review their academic entry criteria and their processes for Māori students to offer, often looking at your bachelor level study entry points and some of the academic disadvantages of that, or barriers, particularly financial and social hardship of students. The research really reflected the importance of location for these students, being able to remain local in their local community, and the strength of building relationships with iwi there, not having their whānau support right by them so that they could continue in the program. And I guess a lot of institutions are striving to have, stronger relationships with iwi, and this just having a local community approach to an undergraduate degree supports, the local rural area exponentially. It also emphasised the needs for institutions to maybe critique their academic pastoral support strategies throughout their degree program, and maybe looking at collaborative financial solutions to mitigate financial hardship for Māori students that may be disadvantaged with local solutions. And so overall, the number of Māori students that are completing the program, there's still work to be done at the institution for retention and completion rates. So there's still a lot of work to do there, and a lot of it is related to recruitment of educators to the local area as well. And I'm happy to take any questions about it from any of you out there if you have any. Kia ora.
Me ati kia koe whae Nadine. Hoki aku mahara ki te wā I kōrero koe mō te Awanuiārangi. Mō mātou ki konei ki otaki mo te tūwhiratanga o Raukawa, te wānanga o Raukawa. Orite te hia kia awhina I tō tātou iwi, kia eke ki ngā taumata ake. So your kōrero just reminded me when you were talking about Awanuiārangi, whae Nadine, about when we set up down here in Otaki, te wānanga o Raukawa. I remember my wife said that Uncle Whata had gone down to talk to my father-in-law, Iwi Nicholson, and the three older brother-in-laws were standing next to him when Uncle Whata said, I want to build a university in Otaki. And my three oldest brother-in-laws started laughing and looked at themselves for saying, our uncle's lost it. Who would want to build a university in Otaki? And so 30 years on, we can see the hua of those initial dreams of whatarangi, how they have benefited us as a iwi, and how Awanuiārangi has benefited our nursing fraternity in creating their very first nursing school for Māori. Nō reira, tēnei te mihi atu kia koe, me ngā hua I puta mai. Now, I'll just go to the discussion forum to see if there has been any questions come up or anything in the Q&A. No.
Unable to ask questions.
Oh. No. Discussion. Yeah. No reira, Tiwi, just to let you know, if you're not able to use the Q&A, you can put your question in the discussion forum, and we're keeping an eye on it to see whether or not you have got any pātai for whānau, Nadine. We'll give you another minute. Yep, again, the kick-offs don't work. Put it into the discussion forum. How did the perception of it not being affect employment options?
I guess all of the graduates have no problem getting employment, and in fact, most of the graduates have stayed local. So I guess, you know, for the program being in Whakatane, which is high population Māori, with a huge sort of rural catchment in the Eastern Bay of Plenty, they're growing their own workforce. So, and there's a number of like Māori providers too in the region. So, and a fantastic outcome of this program by making it, bringing it local out of a big city centre has been that there is a pipeline of a Māori health workforce locally. So there's been no issues with the jobs.
Kapai. Has the mana of this institution grown over the years?
Most definitely. And I think, although there's that kōrero around, the stigma of it, elitism of a university versus wānanga, I guess, the graduates, the caliber of the graduates, and I guess their dual competency sort of speaks for itself, and that, they're a valuable resource. So, they are mana enhancing the program, by producing these Māori RNs, and actually non-Māori as well, that have had some immersion in mātauranga Māori in their degree program and in their education. With some basic,
one of them is not a trace. One of them is not a trace black.
Yeah.
So from this learning tauira that tauira do, has it been 100% pass rate?
No, not 100% pass rate. And I think, obviously, I have got some stats around the pass rate. So again, I said like 79% of the graduates of the program are Māori. But there is still some work to be done around retention in the program, and that just probably gives weight to the challenges that are faced by tauira as they're going through a program, given that most of them have dependents, the financial hardships, educational background, and supporting all of that. So, it's a lot of work, but I do have, it's not 100%, no.
Okay. Will it be in major cities in the future planning?
Hope so. If we can, I guess with my recommendations there at the end in terms of like policy and future research into programs like this in major cities or other institutions, because we know we've got Te Wānanga o Aotearoa in our major cities. There's a lot more groundwork that needs to be done in terms of the pipeline for Māori nurse educators, creating programs like this in those cities, and and having models for that.
We'll take the last two questions, Fire. Will there be plans for NP pathway?
At the moment, the program at Awanuiārangi is just undergraduate at the moment. There's no postgraduate papers offered at the Wānanga. They do, because they do a Bachelor of Education there as well, so teachers, and they do right up to level 10 to PhDs in indigenous studies, but not at the moment, not for health sciences, it's just undergraduate.
Kia ora. And now that I read it from Charlene, it actually was a quick comment, not a question. Retention for Māori tauira is challenging at all levels of education.
Aye.
Nō reira, e te iwi, tēnei te mihi atu kia whaia Nadine mo tōna wā, kia whai wā, te hala mai ki te kōrero wānanga i nā kaupapa ngiha nui ki a rātou, e noho mai ki Awanuiārangi. Te whaia Nadine mo o kōrero ātāhua. And I think we're just starting to come up. We didn't have too many issues with your presentation. Nō reira, tēnei te mihi mai te ngākau i te rawa. Kia pai te haere, ko te pai tā whiti whaia kia tata, ko te pai tata whakamaua kia tīna, hui e tāi ki e.
Kia ora tātou.